What's good, folks? Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Welcome
Yes.
to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and whys behind anything and everything for the Buffalo Bills. I'm one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And
Let's
Eric,
go.
man, big game this past week against the Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys. Dallas was rolling in hot, coming off of a strong win against the Philadelphia Eagles. They were sitting there at first in the NFC East. Dak Prescott was and still is in the MVP conversation. He was sitting there second in EPA per play and second with completion percentage over expected plus EPA. The Cowboys offense was rolling. Their
They
defense,
were humming. No
they
doubt.
were
The
humming.
offense was humming coming into that.
One of the best players in the world on the defensive side of the ball with Micah Parsons. This was a very good football team coming into the game against Buffalo. Still a very good football team.
Yeah.
But after that performance, man, it had people not only, kind of celebrating what the Bills were doing, but doubting the Cowboys. Then that's how strong of a performance we saw from this Buffalo Bills team. And that kind of sets the table for what we're going to dive into tonight. A little bit on the defensive side of the ball, a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. Noah's all there in all caps. Saying, boys, how are we feeling? We're feeling good, Noah.
Johnny.
Eric. Yeah, Johnny hanging out here with us. Eric, it was a truly dominating performance on both sides of the ball. And even 31-10 is still impressive. But that touchdown for Dallas basically came in late garbage time.
Yeah.
It was a truly dominating performance on both sides of the ball, controlling the line of scrimmage, controlling the tempo, the game script, the plans, lack of adjustments from Dallas kind of funneling into that with what the Bills were doing. A very strong performance for this Buffalo Bills team that we're going to break down tonight, and one that this Bills team needed as they continue to have to stack wins together trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it was like you said, it was dominating. And to the point where, there wasn't a point in the game where I felt like, oh boy, here we go. Or, hey, they're not in control. Now, did the first few drives, did the Cowboys move the ball a little bit on the Bills defense? Absolutely. And, the Bills on the offensive side of the ball caught a couple of breaks. And when I say breaks, I mean good calls by the refs, but, breaks nonetheless. The punt that should have probably been blocked, and then he runs in the kicker. Like, some things went the Bills' way. There's no doubt about it. Not in a way where, conspiracy theorists are probably jumping in there and saying, hey, something's up here. It's a little slanter for the Bills. I don't think it was to that point, but the Bills dominated on both sides of the ball. Very good game plans on both sides of the ball. Very good in-game adjustments and committing to what was working on both sides of the ball. It's nice to see from a complementary football, stance. And that's something that McDermott always talks about. And I will say, I think the defense has played better the last few weeks, the last month or so, right? And all the stats and metrics support that. But I will say, I do think that they're getting that type of play on the defensive side of the ball because of how good the offense is playing and has been playing since Joe Brady's taken over. I think that has allowed that defense to play their style of game, pin their ears back and attack up the field, stop the run and route to the passer type of style. And then we saw McDermott's coverages in this game. It was phenomenal. The array of coverages and looks that they gave Dak Prescott, how they changed the picture from pre to post snap was phenomenal. And I don't want to say they confused him totally, but they did a good enough job of making him think and process it long enough for either the pass rush to get home or for those first, second, and third reads to be taken away. And he had to just check it down. So we're going to explore all of that tonight in the film room. We're covering both sides of the ball. So as you can expect, we have a lot of film to go over.
Yeah, a little bit. And it's funny too, how the complementary football aspect worked for the Bills offense and defense. And it's funny how it worked against a team that the way the Cowboys defense works with the Cowboys offense is a complementary football piece. They love to play, and it worked against them in this game, but they love to play with these nickel and dime defenses. And one of their starting linebackers is Marcus Bell, who's 205 pounds. The thumper at the linebacker position is Damone Clark, who's 230 pounds, maybe soaking wet a little bit, but they like to play fast. They like to use those hybrid safeties in a multitude of ways, and they get up on teams, and then they let Parsons hunt and DeMarcus Lawrence hunt. And not having Jonathan Hankins in this game at defensive tackle worked against them for sure. But it's funny how the complementary football worked for the Bills and didn't for Dallas, and how big that swung the pendulum. And I like what you mentioned too, how the pass rush and coverage work together. I put this performance against Dallas up there with what they did against Miami in week 4 or whatever it was earlier in the year, where we broke it down in the show. You did a great job breaking down in the solo video the day after the Miami game. Miami worked things, the first couple of drives, they got 14 points, but once that second quarter hit, you really started to see the marriage and the blend of pass rush and coverage. What was happening on the front was working on the back end. In so many games this year, the Jacksonville one always sticking in my mind where that didn't work. And it worked again in this game against Dallas like it did against Miami, and the results were there. It was just a really well architected game plan, and then the execution on both ends. And like you said, from start to finish, we talked so much about the drop off in the second half from this defense and how it's worked against what the offense has done. And you just didn't see that. They were really humming from start to finish, first half to second half, a complete football game from both sides of the ball. And again, starting on that defensive side, it starts with Sean McDermott, the in-game execution. They had Dallas well scouted where they wanted to funnel them into in terms of ideas and scheme, what they wanted to take away, what they wanted to mitigate, what they wanted to amplify. Again, well designed, well done, and then also well executed.
Yeah, and it started by closing the middle of the field down, right? It's something that the Cowboys do such a great job of stretching that intermediate and middle of the field area of the field, getting those targets into the middle. And the Bills did that by playing a lot of cover 3. You think about it, if you have 3 deep, you got 4 under, and you got, some good players in that underneath area, then you can close down some of those passing windows. And they disguise those cover 3 looks very well. They spun from 2 high to 1 high into those cover 3 looks and vice versa. They played cover 3 38.6% of the time in this game. That was the highest all season. They played cover 2, the second highest in this game, at 28.1%. And again, cover 2, Tampa 2, you think about it, yeah, you're going to have 2 safeties deep, but really you're going to have 5 guys underneath if nothing is stretching vertically down the field. So you can shut down the underneath stuff and stuff that teams like the Cowboys like to do, dink and dunk, get it to Lamb, get it to Ferguson, get some yards after the catch, check it down the Pollard, have him, convert some first downs. Those little plays to, matriculate down the field to move the chains just weren't there consistently all night. And so, Dak had to hold on the ball a little longer than he's used to. And I just think the disguise and the rotations of some of these coverages that we're going to cover tonight, like, it was exciting to watch because it felt like McDermott was himself on the field as a play caller after everything he's been through the last few weeks. And so we're going to cover some of that. And then we're going to get into some Taron Johnson film. Of course, we got to cover him. Probably the best player on the field on the defensive side of the ball.
Bro, he absolutely crushed it. I starred this comment for later, the comment saying, or question, y'all think Taron could get an all-pro look now that they made the distinction between nickel and boundary corner? We've said it for years, like Taron Johnson is up there with, the Mike Hiltons, and I know Kenny Moore's having a down year, but Kenny Moore, usually up there. Like Taron Johnson is in that rotation for solid nickel corners, depending on how you look at Trent McDuffie and all these other guys. But Taron Johnson has been so tremendously important to this defense year after year. And it was awesome to see him get a matchup in this game where you don't really see primary receivers in the slot too much in the NFL. Usually, it's mainly like guys like Diggs, where we can put him in the slot every once in a while, but they're going to work outside. CeeDee Lamb is a true inside-outside piece. The Cowboys will use him wherever and whenever, and they like to put him in the slot, and that works in with what they like to do offensively and where they like to attack. Like Dak Prescott is one of the best seam ball throwers. He will work that like to death with Ferguson, with CD, and also, Eric, you mentioned too, like making Dak hold on to the ball. Like they did a good job of jamming and getting into the face, whether in zone or man, and these Cowboys receivers. This offense for Dallas, I guess last week on Disguise Coverage, JP Acosta put it beautifully. Dak and the Cowboys offense was a buzzsaw of efficiency, and the Bills made them inefficient by throwing off their rhythm, throwing off their timing. Dak Prescott's time to throw in this game was 2.93 seconds. His average time to throw on the year is 2.7. So that's a significant difference. Yes. And that resulted because of the Bills throwing off that timing, throwing off that rhythm, making him hold on to the football. And it was really beautiful. And another beautiful thing is that we get to show people how and why it was beautiful with the film.
Yeah. So let's start off with kind of that chess match of, McDermott and Bernard, the defensive, what'd you call him on the field? Bernard on the field?
Oh, the air traffic controller.
Air traffic controller. And you know what? it's something that I find hilarious now that, fans are able to see this and they actually believe it now because it's something that these coaches have talked about from day one for the Mike linebacker position, but never really believed it. But now they are because it's Bernard instead of the man we will not name that plays for the Bears now. So there was a nice little chess match going on between McDermott, McCarthy, Bernard, and Dak. And I want to show a few of those plays on the field here. So we're looking at early in the game, 2nd and 12 situation here, first quarter. And you can see Dak coming up to the line of scrimmage and changing the play here. And so watch Bernard. Look at him. You see him change the coverage, change what run fits are going to happen here. And on the snap, what it does is watch Rousseau right here as the base D end to the top of the screen. Watch him and what he does, because what he does is spike inside on the play as the ball snapped, and that puts him right on the doorstep of the running back. You'll see it better from the end zone angle. And again, I think this is Bernard checking into this play where you're letting this gap exchange happen. You're getting the spike inside by Rousseau, and then that means the guy that's replacing him is Taylor Rapp. So now Rapp's going to have this gap. Taron Johnson's here. Obviously, Rousseau is right in here. So it's a little slant or spike inside. And that call gave the Bills, a tackle for loss, got Rousseau a tackle for loss, and it put the Cowboys in a 3rd and 14 situation.
The Bills in this game defensively consistently had answers for Dallas in general, but whenever Dak, checked or audibled or alerted or shifted, whatever was going on there, it felt like the Bills were keyed in and clued into that end. That speaks to the in-game preparation and the game plan heading into this game from everything during the week. But again, to your point, it speaks to, Bernard's ability to command this defense. We talked about it when he was drafted. As one of the aspects that was like a selling point for him was who he is from, the neck up, from the shoulders up. We talked about it last year with the praise that Leslie Frazier gave him, talking about that he's one of those like, I always forget, it's like classroom to grass guys or whiteboard to grass guys. And what he meant was like he would draw something up and show Bernard something once in the classroom, and he goes out on the field and executes it. And, you see the physical ability that he has, but just what he is mentally and from a football IQ standpoint in terms of getting this team ready, you see it reflected in some of these plays that are made. Like, it's not just a great physical play by guys, it's Bernard getting them in those places and setting them up for success. And we've seen it honestly a lot since like the Washington game, maybe even that Raiders game, where he's just constantly barking out signals and adjusting and getting this defense right.
Right. And here's another play, second quarter, 12:52 on the clock, 1st and 10 situation, only a 1-yard gain, but initially when the Cowboys come out of the huddle, they're in shotgun, and then you see Dak check into this run call, goes under center, double tight to the bottom of the field, and the Bills must have had this scouted out. This is something you and I noticed. They must have had this scouted out because you'll see later in the game they do the same thing, and what they're doing is they're sending a run blitz, a Taron Johnson blitz off the slot, and even CeeDee Lamb, he sees the rotation. He sees something happening here, so he knows that, especially if you watch Taron there, his eyes are in the backfield. Yeah. He's making it pretty obvious that he's going to come. And it's a nice little exchange, and it's an exchange that is slightly different later, but they must have seen this on film and had this check or audible in line, during the week during preparation to send Taron Johnson, to send Taylor Rapp off the edge, to send a run blitz at this look.
Yeah, and then you mentioned, like, you see this look later. You've got Schoonmaker as the inline tight end, number 86. Ferguson is hipped off of him. The shift to it, it's the exact same thing we see later. Again, a little bit different than what we see later. But you look at, and you have them highlighted there, like Vaughn is taking that inside angle on Tyron Smith, attacking that inside shoulder. So he's hitting that gap inside. You've got Taron coming from the slot. Even Leonard Floyd on the other side, like, he's taking that hard inside angle of Ferguson and diving inside. Exactly like you said, it just seemed there's too many angles happening perfectly here for it to be coincidence. And you see, again, that communication and the check. When we see it later, it's even more pronounced. But again, this is the Bills defense having this shift, this scouted, this is what they're seeing on tape. And so, and even with that though, it's one thing to like kind of know it's coming or think that it's coming. It's another thing to completely call it out and have your check and your answer ready and shut it down immediately.
Yeah. Speaking of having answers ready, here it is later in the game. Second quarter, 7:58 on the clock. Red zone, 2nd and 1 situation. This is a 3-yard loss. And this play was huge.
And major air traffic controller vibes from Terrel
Yeah,
Bernard.
yeah, this is exactly what you put on social media, air traffic controller. So watch Bernard here. Watch the Cowboys check into that play once again. There's the double tight look. There's Bernard going to work. Hey, he's letting the D line know, hey, bump over, bump over. And since they're in the red zone, what's different about this play is, hey, they don't want a safety over the top of CeeDee Lamb. So they want to lock Taron Johnson in the slot on him. So Taron Johnson's not coming here. So on this play, they're going to spike Lawson here and then bring Taylor Rapp off the edge. So I like that little adjustment. But once again, props to Bernard about getting his defense on the same page, and the timing of it's perfect. Rapp comes down, free run at Pollard, good tackle, brings him down immediately. And once again, this was 2nd and 1. So they could have got a new set of downs in that low red zone and moved on. But instead, they face a 3rd and 4. And the Bills on that next play, which we're going to break down later, they go ahead and get off the field. So I just love this play. I love the chess match between Dak and Bernard on this play.
Yeah, and the timing from Rapp and getting into the backfield. I love that you mentioned the context of the play. Like, this wasn't late in the game when it didn't matter. This wasn't on like a 2nd and 9 and it backed them up further. Like, this is kind of like an easy second. This is an easy situational aspect for how the Dallas Cowboys have operated this year. 2nd and 1, like, they're used to converting in these situations. Not only do they not convert, they get a significant negative loss. And with everything Bernard is doing, it's not like he's just calling something out and people are cluing in. He's calling something out. Like, there's significant shifts that are happening there. Phillips bumps over. Ed Oliver bumps over. You've got Rapp spinning down and then obviously rushing off the edge. You've got Shaq Lawson moving inside. Also got a really nice, I know Rapp makes the play. Really nice, quick arm over from Ed Oliver to just beat Beatis like immediately. Like, he doesn't even get the chance to make the play because of what Rapp does. But man, like, the quickness and the decisiveness from Ed Oliver to win inside,
he might have
awesome.
blown it up if this would have been called, to be honest.
I'm really thinking that too. But again, look at that, like, in terms of the scouting. Look where Ed Oliver, where he shifts to, and then he's in that left side A gap and he shifts to the right side A gap on the snap and beats his man inside. Like, this is them keyed into what Dallas is doing and how to shut it down. And again, set up from everything they did during the week, but called out and orchestrated by Bernard in the moment. These are the types of things, Eric, we continue to see regularly, and the types of things that give us confidence for the defense going forward, even though they've had significant injuries at all 3 levels of the defense.
Right. And so, on to the next segment of this defensive breakdown. And again, this is the very next play. So this is that 3rd and 4th play that I was just talking about. And it's a cover 3 creeper call. You guys, we always break down creepers. Again, they're not showing more than 4 guys, 5 guys near the line of scrimmage. It looks like a normal base defense when they're coming up to the line. But what's going to end up happening is they send Dodson right here and they drop out Rousseau, and they're just still running cover 3. But I want you to pay attention to how they space this cover 3 look, because it's really the theme of this game when we're talking the passing game, right, Anthony? And how they clog the middle of the field. This is cover 3, and all of the defenders are either at the numbers or inside of it. So they're trying to shut down the middle of the field in this cover 3 call, and they do a great job of it. And once Ed Oliver, you'll see it from the end zone angle, once he beats the center once again, he gets a piece of the ball, and then Phillips damn near intercepts it. But the completion may happen right here. It may get to the tight end there. But either way, once again, they're packing the numbers. They're packing inside. They're trying to shut down the middle of the field and those easy plays over the middle. And Ed Oliver did a great job of getting in the passing lane on this play. Anthony, talk about how many gaps he came across the field here to get a piece of this ball.
So he's lined up in a 4-eye inside the right tackle there, number 78. So essentially that is you basically like in your B gap there. And he crosses over the B gap next to him, which is between that right guard and the center, and then goes into the far side A gap. So essentially crossing over multiple gaps to make that play. And again, that doesn't happen without the quickness, the fast twitch. Again, he crosses over like his near side A gap and then crosses and then penetrates through the far side A gap. You see the quickness, you see the leverage, good hand placement again on Beatis, and then he rips through with leverage. And he makes this play, to get the deflection and have it, potentially be intercepted to Phillips. This end zone angle is beautiful too, to see
Yeah.
like how many gaps Ed Oliver is really crossing
And the
through. And he
hand
does it.
usage. Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Look at the
like
hands.
that.
Like this one's good too. You can see that right arm of Ed Oliver chop down on the left arm of Beatis and it pins it. Boom. Look at like number 63, that center. He's trying to get that arm out and he's almost kind of chicken winged because Ed Oliver slaps it down, keeps it inside, gets chest on chest. He's low man wins. Then he rips through that inside arm. Again, hand usage and technique, something that we've continuously seen from Ed Oliver this year, but then he pairs it with the power and the leverage to go through Beatis. And like you said, Eric, if this ball gets to Ferguson, you've got Rousseau and Taron right there to potentially make that tackle right away and shut it down. And this is something, like you said, like them packing numbers in here. One of the vulnerabilities against cover 3 is those seams. And the Bills played it, like you said earlier, the highest percentage they played all year, but they weren't hit in those seams. And that's because they were playing this coverage, but they were playing it in a way to take away what Dallas likes to do.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to this next cover 3 call and this rotation here. So first quarter, 4:50 on the clock, a 3rd and 14 call. So this is a continuation of the play we saw earlier when I think it was the first play, right? The run check there. So now it's
Yes.
3rd and 14. Again, cover 3. But look at what they're doing at the bottom of the screen. So Rapp is kind of capping Taron Johnson right here. So again, kind of trying to throw a muddied look at Dak and what's going to happen here. And you can't really tell that eventually Rapp post snap's going to drop into that hook to curl area right at the hashes. But that's what happens. And normally, and you can see it to the top of the screen. This is your flats defender. You can kind of see he plays the numbers. He's the flats player, but there's no one really out there. So he doesn't widen. Well, in the normal cover 3 call, that's what would happen. But watch what the Bills were doing on this play and in a couple plays after this. Instead of Taron Johnson doing that, instead of him just buzzing out to the flats to get out under the number 1 right here, because again, this is a deep third player. He is the flats defender. Instead of doing that, because of the 3rd and long situation, because of how the Cowboys love to attack the seams in the middle of the field, watch what Taron Johnson does. He just hinges, carries that vertically, and helps take that away. And look where Dak's looking. He's looking over to Ferguson there, and CeeDee Lamb's also in the slot going across the middle. But again, that different rotation, that different look, Taron Johnson working up the seam and working vertically, shuts down that play, and Dak holds onto the ball. And what happens? The pass rush gets home. Just great complementary football when you're talking pass coverage and pass rush.
Yes, this is one of the examples in this game of what we were talking about earlier, kind of setting things up for the defensive film here when we talk about that marriage of pass rush and coverage. Like, the pass rushers do their job and get to Dak, but they're able to get home because of what's happening with the coverage on the back end. And Eric, this is a really good example of running a coverage, but having it be more of a match than it is just your basic spot drop type of zone. For those who don't know what that means, I would hope there's a decent amount of you who do know at this point if you've watched the film enough, but instead of just, Taron, like you said, buzzing to your flat and just covering grass and covering a spot for the sake of covering it. For those who don't know, think of spot drop coverage as what happens when you play a zone coverage in Madden. Like those computer players are just dropping, this guy's supposed to be, 6 to 8 yards off the ball on the hook girl. Cool. This is where I am. And you've got him highlighted there. Like normally Taron would be going out where you've indicated there with that arrow because that's his quote unquote zone. But he matches Ferguson on the interior, carries him vertically. You've got Rasul Douglas locking down on the outside there at the bottom, cutting underneath Jalen Tolbert. There is nowhere to go for Dak. CeeDee uncovers late, but he uncovers because Bernard rolls to his right because he's matching Dak and reading his eyes. There is nowhere for Dak Prescott to go. And that's because the Bills are playing this zone coverage, but they're playing it in more of a match way, especially to the bottom of the field. And it allows them, again, to react to what Dallas is doing, take away the aspect of the field where the Bills know Dallas wants to work. And like you mentioned too, like I love the way they presented it as well, just showing everybody's also kind of even in that underneath area, but then it ends up being that cover 3 piece. And then again, Eric, you highlight up front, Ed Oliver working upfield on the outside shoulder, of Tyron Smith there and Von looping inside. We saw a lot of two-man games and different alignments and pieces up front that I think kind of went under the radar during the game. But when you go back and watch the film, you're really able to see, and boom, you highlighted their little petri dish. They similar to what the Bills did early on against Philly with good rush lane integrity and
Mahomes
hemming
too.
Hurt. Yes, and Mahomes too, like hemming Mahomes and Hurts in the pocket. They did this with Dallas a lot, almost having like a four-man rush, but three and kind of a fourth as a spy a little bit hanging
Yep.
out, stunts, different games, really trying to confuse the Cowboys offensive line, keep Dak in the pocket and make life difficult for him. And it resulted in a bunch of sacks with relentless effort.
And I like this little two-man game, but Ed Oliver's again just playing from the shoulders up. So he's going first, and he obviously, takes the guard and tackle with him initially, and essentially Von Miller and him are exchanging now. Ed is, for all intents and purposes, the D end here, and you can see his helmet's inside right here. He's checking the top of the drop, what Dak's going to do next, and I just love how he switches outside. So now, if Dak does want to leave, that's shut down. But he doesn't just stop there. He transitions to that rip, drops his pads. So again, thinking on his feet. Now, does he get the sack? No, but he forces Dak to spin around here, and this is when Floyd closes and finishes. This is great pass rush, and again, thinking from the shoulders up and anticipating what Dak's going to do, and then Floyd is anticipating what Oliver is doing and how Dak's going to react to it, and that's why he gets a sack, which is something Ed Oliver talked about in his post-game presser. This is great stuff. Again, we talked about the back end. It was in sync with the pass rush, but the front four also did a great job of working together to kind of hem Dak Prescott in. And because the coverage caused Dak to hold on to the ball, they were able to do their job and get home. Just
Look
awesome
at the
stuff.
look at the hip sync and like the change in angle for Ed Oliver. Like right there, like he's almost upright against Tyron Smith, and in the blink of an eye, he drops those hips and gets that lean and turns the corner. Like that is not a normal or average thing that you see happen, especially from like an interior defensive player. But this is one of the advantages of having Ed Oliver or having that type of body type, that quicker, more athletic, smaller interior defender. That, it's a tremendous play from the neck up, but then also like tying it into the physical piece. Just it's instantaneous. Like he recognizes it mentally and then sinks those hips, drops, wins that leverage, turns the corner. It's just, he's having such a strong year, and it really isn't talked about enough. Like every week we could just do like a 25-minute Ed Oliver segment to highlight what he's doing for this defense.
The development is just, you see it. You
Yes.
see it every single game, and he just adds to it. And like you said, we literally could do a segment every single week. So let's move on to the end of the first half, second quarter, 56 seconds left. This is that kind of that 2-minute drill that the Cowboys are trying to get down there so they could double dip. Second and 10 situation. There's a 4-yard gain for the Cowboys, but once again, cover 3, protecting the middle of the field, and Taron Johnson once again showing that he's protecting the seam to the bottom. CeeDee Lamb goes to the flats, but they're not worried about that. They want to eliminate vertical explosive plays, but also protect the middle of the field. And the look it's interesting because normally when you have these cover 3 looks, the quarterback's going to start looking one way and then throw a seam down the other way. And I think that's why they did that in this game, where you see Taron Johnson carry this vertically, almost making it look like a separate coverage. If a quarterback's taking a peek over there, he's probably like, okay, this is like quarter halves type defense here. And to the top of the screen too, they also kind of throw a little monkey wrench in there because Poyer is right here. He is the dime backer. You see him just go out to the flats. Again, he's a flats player, so he's going to carry that guy out there. But because of the rotation here, Cam Lewis coming down into that hook to curl area, Taylor Rapp getting to the post, but not quite getting to the middle of the field, it kind of looks like it's a too high coverage. And Dak only looked to one side of the field because look at how Rasul Douglas is kind of gaining width, like a Tampa 2 type look. He's not staying on that cover 3 divider line where, again, 3 deep defenders, there's usually a cover 3 maintenance where they got to be a certain depth or a certain landmark before as they get vertical. It looks, if Dak's looking to just one side, it looks like maybe, hey, this is a quarter's coverage. And so he holds on to it. And Brandon Cooks doesn't know, hey, should I be running a corner here or should I be getting up the slot? It's that type of adjustment of a route. And so he's kind of like in no man's land here in a corner and then a safety down here. So that's not open. Dak, again, stays on it. And he's like, you know what? I need to check this down. And then here comes Cam Lewis, who is someone that I like his versatility. When you're talking about the safety and slot positions. He kind of a blend of both. And that's why you can do things like this with him. He comes up and makes that tackle. It's only a 4-yard gain. Clock's running.
I really like how they used Cam Lewis, Poyer, and Rapp in this game in terms of who
Oh, yeah.
spun, who was going to be in the box, who was the post safety, who was going to be in the too high looks. Like they rotated them well. I really want to see more of it. I felt like earlier in the year like even as far as like the last several weeks, like when Poyer was the dime linebacker, you knew, okay, he's going to be the dime linebacker. And I felt like that gave them opportunities to like experiment with the safeties and do different stuff with Rapp and Hyde and Poyer. And they leaned into it a bit more in this game. And I think it helped a little bit with that disguising aspect and trying to figure out who's going to be where. And you nailed it with like the technique there. You have it labeled technique confusing the wide receiver and quarterback. Like this is a cover 3 look, but exactly look at where Taylor Rapp is.
Yeah.
He's not really playing in that. I mean, based on
Not
alignment,
post.
like
Yeah.
no, he's not in the post.
Yeah.
You're not a post safety. So if you're Brandon Cooks, you're reading exactly like you said. You're basically reading Rasul Douglas and Taylor Rapp as if like that's a quarters alignment based on where Douglas and Rapp are, but that's not the coverage that's happening. And that's a real annoying thing when you're trying to figure out something on the fly. And then, yeah, you highlighted Bernard. Like, look at where Bernard is shifting to. Eric, what's he trying to take away? He's working in that middle of the field, that seam area. Like, they're taking away what Dallas wants to do, muddying the reads for Dak. And again, this is another example. I mentioned it earlier where, they were getting physical with Cowboys receivers, either in, like cover 2 looks or man looks with that press aspect. This is another way that they were able to slow down Dak and slow down the efficiency of Dallas by confusing them and muddying things enough to either make Dak just be like, screw it, let me check it down, or confusing him long enough to allow the pressure to get home.
Right. And here's another cover 3 look later in the game, third quarter, 1:22 on the clock, 3rd and 9 situation. The Bills played cover 3 quite a bit on third down, especially 3rd and long. This is a sack, a 9-yard sack here by the boys. So Bernard, the alignment's crazy. First of all, let's talk about that. Bernard is on the line of scrimmage right here. Floyd is off the line of scrimmage. Jordan Phillips is the D end on this play. So right off the bat, like trying to sort out where the offensive line should shift, it had to be a pain in the ass, to be honest, if you're Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offensive line. So that look is strange. You got a too high look. Looks like it's going to be too high from the jump. I mean, just look at the width of the safeties and look how deep they are. But post snap, this is an interesting little wrinkle. It's cover 3, but it's 3 deep, 3 under. So you have, again, these are technically your 3 deep players, but you only have 3 guys underneath here. So it's almost like they're blitzing, but they're not. They're only sending 4. And then you got kind of like a spy or rat player in Bernard playing that low hole area. And so, again, it may, look like, hey, they're sending a blitz, but on the back end, because they look at the back end and the way it's spinning and guys in coverage, but really they're not. And again, it's just a cover 3 call. It confuses Dak and the stunt from the end zone angle. And I'll let you break that down. Like this was pretty nasty stuff, especially when you're talking Ed Oliver head up, using his quickness to kind of offset the offensive line and the finish between, Floyd going first and then Phillips, looping inside. Like that was nasty. That was a nasty little stunt that McDermott cooked up.
It's so pretty, like you said, initially just from the initial alignment of like Poyer is even looking like he's rushing. So you're trying to account for him. And then as the snap is about to happen, he drops out. Bernard,
and you're right. Before you go forward, like that's what Dak called out right there. He's saying we're throwing hot off of him and we're throwing hot off of him. So he's letting these guys know off to the right side, especially Ferguson, that, hey, if one of these guys goes, we can't cover all of them. So, hey, you need to, adjust your route or become that hot route. So you're right. They did think that Poyer was coming, which the Bills have sent Poyer a lot. We did a whole breakdown, especially in the 2-minute drill when they sent Poyer or one of the safeties down at the quarterback.
Yeah, much to our disappointment, where those blitzes continued to happen over and over. Yeah, so Dak calls that out. And again, this is what's fun. Like Poyer drops. Bernard starts to come forward. Again, Bernard's in a pure rush alignment, but he just kind of muddle rushes and sits there as that low hole player. And boom, you highlight it. Yep, there's 66. Like he's ID'd him as his man. He steps up, but Bernard is like, nope, psych, I'm actually not rushing. I'm going to play the low hole. That's a wasted man. You highlighted it a minute ago. Tony Pollard is just kind of lost in the sauce a little bit, trying to figure out who to take. He steps up and then IDs Phillips coming inside late on that game. But the person who makes it for me, you mentioned it, is Leonard Floyd. I love that he's off ball. I love his eyes initially. Like, look at where he's looking. He is looking inside. He's looking into that A gap, into the inside shoulder of 73, and starting to creep forward. And then on the snap, beelines it to, no pun intended, the B gap, and spikes inside. And Eric, he spikes inside so effectively that not only does he clear the space for Phillips, but he also like gets free himself because of the juice and the
So
burst
fast.
out
Yeah.
of his stance. Like the quickness and the ferocity that we see from him week in and week out. And these are quick players on the left side. That's Tyler Smith and Tyron Smith. Like these aren't slow plodding guys on the left side of the offensive line. And he just beats them instantly by spiking inside. And we get, even, though they're reversed with Floyd being an edge player normally and Phillips being an inside player, we basically get like that type of tech stunt, that TE, where Floyd is that spiker, Phillips is the looper. And it also works on this side. I'm thinking based on the look that the Bills showed pre-snap, Dallas ID'd this as basically like a man protection, like a 5-0 type of look. So Tyler Smith, left guard number 73, he's treating Floyd like it's his man, and he gets too far upfield with him, which is part of what allows Phillips to come scot-free, which is also part of the reason Pollard gets lost, because he steps inside being like, I thought one of these guys were coming in the
He
middle
was
and
looking
nobody's
the
coming.
Poyer first, and then he was looking out here if Taron or someone else came off the edge. And by the time he gets, you see right there, Poyer first, then he's looking outside, and then he's like, oh no, there's Phillips running by him.
It's beautiful. And Steele, number 78, he's working outside Vaughn. 66, his man is Bernard, but like we said, Bernard comes up a little bit and then sits. It's a good job of using Dallas's protection rules against them with your initial pre-snap alignment, changing some alignment of your personnel in terms of, what they were doing with Bernard and Phillips and Floyd. This was just really well designed again. So it's a really good schematic design, really good call from McDermott, but then the execution from the players. Like, I love this angle too, because I just can't get enough of the little deception from Leonard Floyd in terms of where he's looking pre-snap. And then as he gets closer, just changes his body and boom, spikes and just clears Phillips so easily.
Yeah, and you guys in the chat are talking about Vaughn being out wide. He's essentially a contained player, only get as deep as a quarterback here. And once again, this is obviously schemed up on the left side to create that pressure and kind of, force Dak off the spot, either to Von Miller, or if, Dak wants to step up here, he's done. He's done right there from Bernard. So, man, this was just very good preparation, scouting, design, and then execution was just on point when you're talking that stunt, again, in line with the cover 3 looks on the back side of that and how they spun to that in the coverage side of things.
It's so beautiful. And like that almost like played out like a, fire zone type of look on the back end where, like you said, where you're playing that 3-3, but it wasn't that. It was cover 3. And then you have a low hole player underneath. It's these little, like what we continue to show and what we've shown throughout so far. It's these little tweaks, these little variations. And that's what makes it tough for an offense, and especially a quarterback, to decipher on the fly, because you're trying to figure out, wait a minute, like what coverage is it? Is there a blitz? Is there not a blitz? And all these things are happening, and you're trying to read it in roughly 2.5 seconds and go to the right guy. Like, that's hard. McDermott did a good job in this game of taxing Dak and the Dallas offense mentally.
Right. And so now we're going back to the second quarter, that 2-minute situation that you talked about. And you talked about it earlier, how they kind of rotated Poyer and Cam Lewis in this situation, especially from Poyer being up as that dime backer. And then when they wanted to play a little more coverage, especially on this play where they went man-to-man coverage, they said, you know what, Poe, you get deep with Rap, and we're going to bring Cam Lewis down, and he gets a PBU on this play. But I wanted to talk about this play also because it's a cover 2-man call. And the Bills played cover 2-man 6.9% in this game, which was the highest they've done it all year. Yeah. And they didn't play a lot of man in this game, but this is one of those situations and down in distances where they did 3rd and 6 situation here. And once again, lined up man across the board. And we talked about on social media how the Bills wanted to close down the middle of the field. So look to the bottom, CeeDee Lamb's in the slot. You see the boys go ahead and take inside leverage. And you do that because you want to close down any type of in-breaking routes here by those 2 receivers. Top of the screen's kind of the same thing. You see him take away inside route. And so Ferguson runs that out route. and Cam Lewis does a great job of getting in that pocket and making a play at the catch point. Just awesome stuff from Cam, and I would like to see him get some more reps, especially if they are going to these dime looks. He's got some versatility, and we talked about it at the Senior Bowl right around this time last year of how when they brought in Joe Dana to help out in the secondary from the Texans, and how it would be nice for the Bills defense to kind of blend the safeties and the slot position, because late last year, our offenses were kind of picking up on some of their tendencies and alignments of where Taron Johnson was lined up and the coverages they were playing after the snap. And so to see this type of play and that versatility of Lewis, I'd like to see a little more of that as the season goes on.
If you've got the horses, like I'd love for them to be able to use them in that way. It's one of the aspects that two defenses who I really like, and I hope and people don't get too mad at me for one, the Patriots and the Ravens, like what they do with their hybrid safeties and DBs, it makes it so fun. Like you don't know, like, okay, who's playing in the box? Who's going to be the post safety? Is it a split field look? Is it not? Like there's so many mental games you can play with an offense in terms of disguising and dictating and all these things. And again, it worked in this aspect for the Bills. I love the percentage of two-man played in this game. When I saw this on TV, I was pretty sure it was two-man, but I was just at a loss because I was like, the Bills are playing two-man? Like, oh my God. And then it happened again later, and I was like, oh, another? Like, this is a bit out of the ordinary for them in terms of what they like to play. But again, like you said, like from a leverage perspective, it fit with what they were trying to do. Great job from Taron. He is literally plastered to CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, I felt bad for him in this game. You can literally watch like almost like a flip book in terms of like all the CeeDee Lamb snaps and watching him just get more and more frustrated with each snap and each play. Like he almost gives up on this route here. And
he did get frustrated a little bit, right?
Yep, absolutely. Even later in the Christian Benford interception, it's a real lazy route from CeeDee Lamb. Like he looks like he does not care at all. And he's frustrated because of what had happened to him for the majority of that game. And there's nowhere to go. Douglas is on his man. Taron's on CD. Benford's on the outside. And then highlighting Cam Lewis here. This is a good job. Jake Ferguson has been crushing it. And Ferguson gets physical at the top of the route, gets that arm literally right into the face of Cam Lewis. Cam fights through the physicality, and then that's the piece right there. He gets bumped at the top of the stem as Ferguson tries to separate on the break, but he fights through it, and look at the angle that he takes. He gets back onto that inside hip, and he undercuts that route and then punches through the hands and gets that PBU. This is a real quality rep for Cam Lewis, going up against the guy who's been hot and going up against the guy who has him in terms of size and physicality. And Ferguson tries to play through that. Cam doesn't care, plays through that physicality, makes a real nice technical play. Like that's how you draw it up in terms of playing that route in that coverage.
Yeah, just to kind of frame or reference how, the Bills played cover two-man 6.9% in this game. On the season, they played two-man 2.8% of the time, which is very low, obviously. But compared to the league, it's actually the second most in the league. The Chiefs lead in cover two-man percentage at 5%. So they're actually out ahead of the pack.
It doesn't get played a lot in the NFL. No. Like you don't see, usually you see it more in college, especially like the Georges of the world. Like you have to have, usually like it's that aspect that you want to play when you like, we have the better athletes, we have the better dudes, we think we can lock your dudes down. It's hard to do that in the NFL given the caliber of weapons that you face, not to mention how heavily, skewed the rules are in favor of the offense.
Right. And so let's get into some of what Taron Johnson did in this game, because when we're talking slowing down CeeDee Lamb, especially in this situation late in that first half, and when the Bills did go to those man situations, not just two man, but just, cover one man, quarters plays, backside of quarters plays where they man up. Watch Taron Johnson on this play. Look at him right here in the slot. Look at him communicating to Benford. It's almost like he knows the route that CeeDee Lamb is going to run here. So then I'm going to let it roll. He comes up near line of scrimmage, post snap. What do? Inside leverage. They take inside leverage, shut down the middle of the field. They run a little banjo to the top. They're in man coverage as well. And then just watch as CeeDee Lamb makes that break. And look at what Benford's doing. He's trapping here. He's trapping. So if as Lamb breaks to the boundary here, Benford has the green light to trap that play. And then, of course, the safety is going to play over the top of one. So very good, keying of Lamb and the route based on the formation that they're gonna they had there, that 2x2 look, and understanding what they like to do. This is great film study and calling it out by Johnson. And so Johnson is in his hip, and Dak is looking to throw to him. He is, and I believe that he sees the tight coverage by Taron Johnson, and probably even sees this trap coming. And you're going to see him try to almost throw the perfect pass and try to lead CeeDee Lamb back, and they're just not on the same page right there. This is fantastic stuff from Taron Johnson, and he was a big reason why the Bills did such a great job of closing down the middle of the field, but more importantly, limiting CeeDee Lamb, especially in these man coverage looks.
He's been, like we talked about earlier, he's been so important to this defense with what he's asked to do from a coverage perspective, what he's asked to do from a run fit perspective. And then, in that coverage aspect, playing in the slot, facing guys and knowing that they have that two-way go and the space that you're in, you're almost on an island every time. And then the variety of body types. Sometimes you're covering a pure shifty slot guy. Sometimes it's a power slot guy. Sometimes it's a tight end. And in this instance with Dallas, it's one of the premier receivers in the NFL. CeeDee Lamb is having an all-pro type of year with the numbers that he's put up. 3 consecutive games at one point where he had over 10 catches and 150 yards. Like, he's been absolutely crushing it this year. And they put him in that slot to have a mismatch and create advantages. And Taron erased him for the majority of the game. And you highlighted it. Like, when I saw him doing the hand motion on tape, I was like, no way is that's exactly what he's doing and calling that out. And he was. And then it even threw me a little bit watching the coverage and seeing what Benford did. And I was like, yeah, is he trapping that? Like, I think he's trapping that because he's got his man eyes, and with his turn towards Tolbert, but then he snaps that head around. This is great scouting by the Bills defense, a great call out from Taron Johnson. It's just so well done, again, mentally and schematically, but then the physical execution piece. And I love the point that you mentioned about Dak. Like, this makes it a very fine line and a small window for Dak to complete this. So he throws it outside. So that way, if he misses outside and it's an incompletion, but you have to thread a very hard needle here to make this be a completion. And that's just what you're trying to do. Like, stress these throws, stress these windows. They squeezed windows and lanes even when they were in man coverage just because of their leverage, their alignment, film study, and the execution, putting it all together.
Right. And, we're going to talk about it even more on the offensive side of the ball, about dominating and bullying. The Cowboys didn't want the smoke from Taron Johnson on this play. So quads look bottom of the field. They're running a screen here. Just watch Taron fire. And then Gallup is a bigger wide receiver and usually a feisty, scrappy guy. He took the fight to him. He attacked that inside shoulder so that they couldn't set it up, because of course they want to come out here. This is where the numbers advantage is. They have a 3-on-2 right here. So they don't want to cut up inside here where Bernard is and everyone's coming in pursuit. They want to get the tight end outside here, setting up the blocks there. And so Taron Johnson just erases that angle, blows it up, takes on 2 guys, forces that cutback right to Bernard. Like, that's phenomenal work by Taron Johnson. That's the dog that we love in his play, and we love seeing it, whether it's in the passing game or the running game.
He had one early in the game, too, on another little bubble to Brandon Cooks where he just long-armed and went through Ferguson to cut off the outside to, again, force that play to Bernard and Poyer. And you said it. This was just the verbiage that I kept using for how the Bills defense played in this game. Like, they just played with bite. You saw fast-flowing, aggressive nature. You saw them talking and chirping after plays. Like, they were hitting dudes and, like, running their mouth to them on the ground. When,
too, right?
Yes. A lot of, like, this very much felt like a playoff game for both teams. There was feistiness, there was chippiness, there was bite, but a lot more of that was on the Bills side than it was on the Cowboys side. And even, I'm not condoning it whatsoever, but even the shots that the Bills were taking at Dak with Rapp and Dodson, like, they were trying to send a message and playing through the Cowboys and smashing them in the face. And again, that's a good example. When you've got one of the littlest dudes on the team willing to run through somebody to take an angle, and then even Poyer and Bernard fast flowing to the ball to make a play, which we saw regularly. Again, that they didn't want the smoke. Like, you nailed it. The Bills were bringing it consistently.
Yeah, here's another play by Taron. This is more of a quarters look. So they lock the 2 guys to the bottom of the screen on this 2x2 look. They play zone to the top of the screen, but once again, inside leverage. And then you see Taron read the hip and break of CeeDee Lamb, and he attacks that low hip right there, gets in front of the pass and nearly intercepts it on this play. just a great read and trigger by Taron on CeeDee Lamb, but also from that inside leverage point in this quarters coverage look.
Again, taking away that inside, taking away the seam pieces, taking away that middle of the field. He almost runs this route for CeeDee Lamb, and he slips the hip underneath so efficiently, almost like he's in like a catch man technique, which I like. He's not here, but just the way he gets underneath and runs that angle. And this isn't even like a horrible throw from Dak. This isn't too far underthrown. CeeDee has to come back a little bit towards it, but Taron makes up some ground. He's able to recover, get underneath, make a play on the ball. Like this again makes it another hard throw for Dak because he's either got to push it towards the sideline or he has to try and layer it over Taron Johnson. And
from the far hash.
Yeah, from the far hash. Like that's not an easy throw. It takes a lot of arm strength and accuracy. That's a tough ball to complete. And again, too, I like the mix of the coverage. You're locking that front side there to the bottom of the screen. You're playing more zone up top. Like when the Bills are in their bag, we see this. We talked about it a lot in the Kansas City game last year, just playing these coverages and mixing things up. And I really wish he came down with the interception and sealed it because it's such a good play. I'll maybe give a little bit of credit to CeeDee. He comes back and I think the shoulder gets through Taron's hands and knocks the ball out. But man, that's just a tremendous job of Taron Johnson undercutting that route, recognizing the situation. And this one's probably my favorite, this next one, of everything that happened in this game.
Yeah, so when we talked about the cover 3 looks, you saw that quarters coverage with man component to it. We saw some of the 2-man looks. Now, again, an array of coverages. This is a Tampa 2 look, but it's a creeper. Again, they only rush 4, but it's sending Poyer to the bottom of the screen, and Von Miller's the edge there. They're putting this right tackle in conflict. You see him kick out initially to Von, but then he sees the most dangerous threat and Poyer coming, so then he squeezes, and I just wish Von could get a sack here. It could have gotten it here because obviously he's due and he's coming along nicely. We talked about him last week. But once again, the coverage is nasty, man. You're sending Poyer on this play. You're dropping out the DN to the top of the screen. And look to the bottom where CeeDee Lamb is. Look at Douglas and what he does. He kind of disrupts that route right there. And all it is just a smash concept here with the running back coming out of the backfield. So they're high-lowing Douglas here. But because of that pressure, you see Dak have to step up and get outside of structure here. And then everyone just plasters down. And the only guy that really has a shot is Ferguson here going deep. But look at Taron Johnson as he spun to that deep half with Cam coming down. Look at the recognition by Taron Johnson of overlapping that deep over route and getting deep, back there to shut that guy down. And once again, pass rush and coverage working together, a nasty call that created some pressure and got Dak off the spot.
I love this play schematically so much. And Von missing the sack annoys me so much because when I tweeted this play, so many people's takeaways was, man, Von sucks. Man, Von is cooked. And I was like, no, forget about Von. Like, look at what is happening on the back end. And yeah, you've got that creeper pressure, which again, another creeper that we're talking about. When the Bills are really starting to work things with coverage plus pass rush, you're seeing their creepers start to work. They'll throw some simulators, but their creeper game is solid. And boom, there's the highlight for me. And you started to throw it in there.
Yeah.
It's almost plays out like a Tampa 2 type of robber. And the fact that they're spinning to it, you've got so many non-traditional things happening here. You're starting out in a 2-high alignment pre-snap, but Cam Lewis is what looks like that split field safety towards the top. And you have him highlighted there. On the snap, he is going to drop down and he's going to become that robber player that essentially is playing in the middle of the field as that Tampa player. And the reason he's that Tampa player is because you've still got split safeties on the back end. But one of those split safeties is Taron Johnson, who is dropping to the split field safety alignment from his apex position.
Yeah.
It's just these little types of intricacies. Like I love when defenses do this, taking players and using them in non-traditional ways. But again, you can't just do it just to do it. Like if you're getting gouged and you're like, well, we want to get creative. Like, okay, if your creativity leads to vulnerabilities, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be doing that, but it plays so well. And watching Taron get over the top and be able to cover on Ferguson and plaster once he sees Dak escape out of the pocket, like that's just, again, another tip of the cap to Taron Johnson with what he's able to do, like working in the slot and fitting the run and all these things. Now he's also playing some split field safety and cover 2 looks. And I loved that play, just the creativity. Again, like normally that middle player, that Tampa player, usually it's a linebacker. Like we've seen Bernard do it a ton of times, run that
Yeah.
pole, and he's that middle
Deep
third
hole.
player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the
But
thing, Tampa too, whether you're spinning the safety down like you did with Cam Lewis on that play, or having Bernard run the rail right up the middle of the field,
Mhm.
it still in many ways unfolds like cover 3.
Absolutely.
You know, and usually the middle linebacker Bernard is carrying up the middle if there's a vertical threat. If not,
Mhm.
he's not getting all that deep,
Mhm.
and that's how you can kind of limit those plays over the middle. And that's why the usage of cover 2, Tampa 2, and cover 3 in this game were so high. In so many of these coverages looked very similar, and how they spun every single play. They spun. There was no static coverages. There was no spot drops in this game. Like everything was just cohesive. The pass rush and coverage was cohesive. The coverages and the array of looks at pre to post snap was cohesive, and it really confused and slowed down the Cowboys offense. Like you said, an offense that was humming coming into this game.
Everything the Bills defense did seemed purposeful. Every pre-snap alignment, every post-snap shift, the timing was good, the sequencing was good. What they did and how it all, like you said, cohesion is a great word. Like you had cohesion
Mhm.
within a play, but then also from play to play and quarter to quarter. Everything they did tied together. Again, it was a tremendously architected game plan and script from Sean McDermott, but it was so well executed by the players up front. It's right up there with that Miami performance
I would
from
agree.
earlier in the year. And considering how hot Dallas was coming in, like we talked about, but also considering no Daquan Jones, no Matt Milano, no Trey
Mhm.
White, no Micah Hyde, the fact that they're doing this with, no, not disrespecting anybody because they're all NFL players, but doing this with more backup guys, doing it with somebody like Cam Lewis, who has not seen regular snaps, and using him as a chess piece and being able to get the best out of him. Again, just an absolutely tremendous play. And Eric, this was a game that, our insiders in the Slack channel have been talking about all week. They were yucking it up during game time. And if somebody wanted to, like, I don't know, become like an insider, get access to that Slack channel, what would they have to do? Or maybe like would we have like a video that kind of talks about how to do that or join stuff or something maybe?
Yeah, to become an insider, to have access to our Slack channel and our premium content, you got to sign up to, to be an insider. And we're gonna play a video real quick. Greg and Aaron break it down for you real quick while I bring up our data and our film. So take a listen.
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
Man.
Yeah, that's really the core foundation that we're like so proud of. The community that we've built when it comes to the insiders and our premium content. All the stuff that we're using tonight, whether it's True Media, which I'll bring up real quick so you can talk about and kind of close out the offensive side of the ball. The Telestrator and Huddle, the PFF subscriptions, like everything that we have used tonight, even should just get it on every platform. This live podcast is due to people that support us, that become insiders, pay for our premium content, but really pay for the quality of content that you guys want, right? It's what you guys want. A lot of the topics that we create are because of our insiders and what they're discussing in our Slack channel, not just on game day, which is probably the best part of it.
Yeah.
Game day Slack channel is fun. And we're like family. Everyone, we've all become very close. So do us a favor after the show, become an insider, support us so that we can keep doing this and keep delivering the content that you guys want.
Yeah, the support that we get from you folks through everything, whether it's, something as simple as a like, or, positive word of mouth to like family and friends or whoever about the channel and the brand. That's tremendously appreciated as well. And then obviously up to, like you said, like these insider pieces, everything that we use, especially in this show that is very metric focused and film focused and technology focused, like everything that we use in this show.
Kind of like this, right, Anthony? Like this
Oh,
type of stuff right here.
especially this one, True Media, with what goes into it. And like you said, Eric, like just to put a nice little bow on what the Bills defense did. This is the pass heat map, pass points, and pass bins from Dak Prescott's performance against the Buffalo Bills this past week. And pretty simple and straightforward, like for everybody, playing at home. I think the heat map and the pass points does a great job of it, but the pass bins graphic is awesome for showing you from percentages. Just look at where Dak was throwing the ball. Forget about completions and incompletions. Just look at where he was throwing the football versus where he was not. The heat map does a great job with it. Dak loves to work the middle of the field. He loves to work those seams. We talk about, he's one of the best seam ball throwers in the game. And if you watch the previous game that Dallas played against Philly before this past week, you would have seen him working those seams on deep post and just seam balls out of the slot. He was not able to work in that area in this game, and we showed it with what they were doing with cover 3, with what they were doing with their 2-man, the cover 2 looks, taking away the interior of the field. Eric, like you said, packing bodies in there, packing numbers. He was deterred from operating in that area. He worked more around the numbers and even outside the numbers and underneath, kind of that underneath the intermediate area, more that 0 to 9 yard, 0 to 5 yard area against this Bills defense. They really took away the chunk plays and the seam plays, and these graphics really kind of put a nice little bow on it to put it in perspective for everyone.
Yeah, that was a good visual. And again, this type of content, these type of memberships that we show you guys on this show, the film that we show you on this show, are paid for by our insiders. Again, it's part of our network. And so we've created this network from a creator standpoint. Hey, we're here to deliver the content you guys want. And, for people that support us, we're able to do that. And we're able to, again, bring up all these memberships and data points to back our opinions. And so that you're not getting that fluff and stuff that you see on the daytime, television and radio. So we appreciate all of the insiders that are already on the network and our family already. But let's flip to the offensive side of the ball now. All right. Obviously, the Bills ran the ball, 49 times for 266 yards. And they said after the game, like, that wasn't necessarily the plan. But once it started hitting, and especially some of the concepts, which we're going to break down, they stuck to it. And that right there is what has separated Joe Brady from Ken Dorsey. And, the difference between, dialing up plays, drawing up plays, and calling plays has been night and day between the two. And maybe some of that experience that Brady's gone through at the collegiate level and early on with Carolina, maybe that played a part in it, but he realized something was working. He collaborated with his coaches and his players, and he stuck with it. And you know what? It paid off.
My biggest, we've done so much on this show going back to last year about Ken Dorsey. Like, we've broken down so many things schematically. And one of the things I've continued to say is my biggest gripe with him was I thought the Bills had a good run game last year, and he went away from it too much and did not consistently go to it, let alone establish it. Like, it was very hit or miss.
It was actually better when you looked at the yards before contact. They were number 1 overall when it came to yards before contact per rush. And then if it was just running backs, they were 3rd overall. And actually, the metrics are lower this year, but it feels like they're better. And so I think people didn't quite realize it. And it's to your point, right, Anthony, where, hey, they could run the ball last year. They just got away from it.
Yeah. And it was even more frustrating considering the struggles we were starting to see offensively down the stretch, Allen's elbow injury, all that. Like, it was even more of an incentive to run the ball, and they did not. And then you come into this year, the Bills have consistently been a top 3 running team for running back carries only, consistently throughout the entire year, up there with Baltimore and up there with Philadelphia. They've been top 3 for the heavy majority of the year. And it was awesome to see them come into this game and Brady use the run game. But more importantly, like you said, just spam these concepts that worked over and over again. And he said one of my favorite phrases, like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And that was also a perplexing piece for me. For the Dallas offense, I was surprised they didn't commit more to the run, especially with how it was working early on. But for the Dallas defense, just the lack of adjustment to the Bills running dart, like, was surprising. But again, to your point, like, okay, they're not adjusting. Let's just keep running it until they adjust. Like, and it may seem simple, but spam that play over and over again. If a unit is not adjusting to what you're doing, keep killing them with it. And they've started to struggle with it lately, but the Eagles have done that for the past 2 years. The Eagles will run like the same 3 or 4 concepts or plays until a defense proves that they can stop it or adjust to it. Dallas didn't adjust to one of the Bills' core run concepts that they have run for 2 years now with this tackle wrap and dart play. Bills mixed in some others as well, but Dallas wasn't adjusting. Joe Brady smelled blood in the water, and he kept at it for the entire game.
Right. And I tweeted, hey, they didn't hide their intentions, especially once they decided, hey, we're going to run the ball this entire game and run the same plays. 27 of their 49 rushing attempts and 168 of their 266 yards came on first down. Hey, we're sending out heavy personnel to go against your dime, your light defensive looks and light defensive personnel, and we're going to run it down your throat. 9 of their 13 tackles avoided from the rushers came on first down. So they did not hide things. They ran an array of personnel, including 12 personnel at 32.3% against the Cowboys. And on those plays with 1 running back and 2 tight ends, which we're going to break down a bunch of them tonight, 17 design rushes for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9 rushes over 5 yards, and 1 explosive play, which was a run over 12 yards. So they did not hide what they wanted to do. And I'm sure the offensive line loved it. And people in the chat are saying, hey, give them some kudos. Oh, we're going to show you film of guys finishing here in the film room once we get to it. But it was nice to see from the perspective of, hey, they're doing things right. Those plays are hitting when they're pulling their tackles. And they kept going to it. Like, True Media charts that dart play with the tackle pull, whether Spencer Brown or Dawkins, as power run. But the Bills don't like pulling their guards like most teams do. But if you look at in this game, the Bills ran those power or dart looks with a pulling tackle 12 different times for 97 yards. They average 8.1 yards per rush, 6 first downs, and 5 tackles avoided. So again, they're bread and butter the last 2 years. And now you're getting to see some of those Cromer techniques show even more, but you're also getting Cook maximizing those runs.
It was very reminiscent, just on a much larger scale, reminiscent of what the Bills did in the Saturday night game against Miami last year in the regular season, where they closed that game out by running dart like over and over again, except Brady did it for the entire game. Yeah, you remember, Brady did it for the entire game this time. And like we talked about earlier, like, it makes sense given what Dallas is defensively. Like, they have a good defense. They're well coached and they've got a lot of fun dudes, but they usually operate complementary in pair with what their offense is. Like, they're usually up because of what the Dallas offense does, and it allows them to play fast and operate with speed. But when you look at who they are structurally, they're a heavy nickel and dime defense. They love to rotate in their 3 safeties. One of them was out in this game with Malik Hooker being out. And so when you're in nickel and dime, and one of your linebackers is number 14 there, Marcus Bell, who's 205 pounds, you are a light defense, which again allows you to play fast and allows you to move. But if a team wants to run downhill and create displacement and get after you, and the game script allows them to, like it did here, this Dallas defense can get in trouble. And that's exactly how the Bills operated. And it was so smart given the structure and build of this Cowboys defense.
Yeah, and it the fact that they were running it that well and getting scores and getting into the end zone allowed them to stick to it. And again, that forced the Cowboys offense into some situations they didn't want to be in. So let's look at some of the schematic stuff on this play. First quarter, 13:06 on the clock, 1st and 10 situation. They get 10 yards on this play. But I want you to look at the RPO element with Dalton Kincaid to the bottom of the screen, kind of running that screen out there. So Josh can pull it and throw out there if he likes the numbers or leverage. But he hands it off here, and the Bills get a pin block at the point of attack right here by McGovern, and you're running the weak side fold, one of their base concepts. And like you said, they're running it right at the undersized linebacker there, Bell, and they're able to get 14 yards on the play from the end zone angle. You see the execution. Look at the combination block by Brown, Torrance. Here's the nice pin block by McGovern. Obviously, Morse can still move, get a piece of that guy, but look at the displacement that they're getting on the backside here on that combination block by Brown and Torrance on Maisie Smith, a guy who I really like coming into the
I'm
draft.
so disappointed in
He's
how
been
he's
struggling.
played this year. He's
Yeah.
been, and not even just in this game. This has been happening regularly. I'm so
Yeah.
disappointed.
Right. So just awesome stuff at going after the undersized linebacker. And the other wrinkle that we're going to see a bunch in this game is the movement by Cook and
Yes.
how they move him from one side to the other and how that can set up blocks and help guys get on blocks. Even on this play where it's not major, his movement right here, just watch the little movement that it causes right here to Bell. And of course, that allows, Morse as he hooks around to get a piece of him. So some little details in the run game that Cromer and his staff and Brady put together that just, man, it was chef's kiss for the entire game.
I felt like every single run play, and then especially when you put them all together, all the little details of this run game in this game against Dallas were so beautiful from a craft standpoint, from a design standpoint, an execution standpoint. You had everything, for me, this starts with McGovern. Like, that's a tremendous pin. Like, he literally almost pins his man to the ground. This is also the type of play an example of why Dallas missed Jonathan Hankins on the interior.
Yeah.
Like, he is that big bodied guy that eats people up front, that allows those hybrid fast defenders in the back, that back seven, to allow them to play fast and slice through gaps and get penetration. They missed him big time in that game. And, again, use that shift, create some leverage, take advantage of Mitch Morse's athleticism, get him out in space. Just that set the tone early on for the type of dominance the Bills would have up front and in the run.
Yeah, we're going to move forward quickly here. So 12 personnel, end of the first quarter, 2:36 on the clock. This is an 8-yard gain on mid-zone run, but the Cowboys, you talked about it in your pregame going into this game. They play a lot of man coverage. And so the Bills went to 12 personnel a bunch, as we talked about at the top. And what that did on this play was it took a linebacker out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see the Cowboys have a 5-man surface. They do have an extra linebacker here in Evans in the box, but watch the motion and shift by Cook. What does that do? Well, guess what? Now you're sliding this guy over to get an angle on him. As you'll see from the end zone angle, Cook does a great job in making the guy miss in the hole, and then he's getting north and south. But look at what that little motion does by Cook. It moves that linebacker because, again, they're in man coverage, and that allows the boys to work that combination block right here to that guy. And as I said, as Cook makes that guy miss, then he gets back on track. He's outside, and he's up the field for an 8-yard gain.
Yeah, it's these little leverage pieces. We talked about it a bunch with what motion can do in the pass game in terms of creating a leverage out in space and the route distribution. But these little shifts and these little pre-snap motions in the run game can also create leverage. And that's what you see there. Like, he shifts there. It holds 32 just a little bit, moves him out of position, out of place, makes it easier for Morse to climb to the second level. And then boom, you highlighted Parsons there. That mesh action in the backfield between Allen and Cook, because Allen is a threat with his legs, Parsons has to honor that. So now you're taking away that backside defender and Parsons from crashing down the line and making a play, and boom, it changes that box count. Now, what you had with the offensive line, you had your 5 offensive linemen, but you had 6 defenders for the Cowboys. Now you take away Parsons. Now it's just a hat on a hat. You've got a body for a body everywhere you go. Parsons is taken out of the fit, and that's a huge piece. With Parsons' athleticism and quickness, if you don't hold him on the backside, he can crash down in the blink of an eye in an instant and make this play on James Cook. He doesn't, because he has to honor the threat of Josh Allen as a runner. And like you said, great job by Cook making Odigizua miss. Great play by Odigizua to get penetration there, but Cook makes him miss. And then 32, that shift, look how it just sets up that angle nice and easy for Mitch Morse to climb to the second level. He doesn't have to do anything intensive, doesn't have to do any heavy lifting, just climbs. And 32 is already in position for him to turn and seal and make a play. And again, all set up by what James Cook did initially and then getting through the line.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Again, little details here and there. Just like, man, such a difference.
And there's so many on like every play, like these little intricacies, like running the football is sexy, man. People just don't understand.
Yeah, it's poetry when things like that go so right so often. You get to see the consistency in plays that work like that. You can see what goes into the preparation on top of the execution on the field. So let's go forward a little bit. Second quarter, 13-38, 3rd-and-1 situation here, 8-yard gain by Johnson. Another variation to, that dart type look. So 3-by-1 set, 3 receivers to the wide side of the field, and you're having Dawkins pull on this play. You're leaving that end man on the line of scrimmage unblocked. And, obviously you got a mesh between Johnson and Allen. And as that guy crashes on Josh, he just hands it out wide. And now you talked about hat on a hat, man. You got a hat on a hat here. Guy having to come from depth on a 3rd and short situation. Great freaking call here by Joe Brady. Situational football was on point on this play call. Because again, the Bills like to run Josh Allen now, this late in the year. And so you have that threat where if this guy hung out here and took away Johnson, well, guess what? Now you got that dart call with Dawkins leading and Josh on 3rd and 1. He's going to convert that. But awesome stuff by Brady and the Bills offense on this 3rd and 1 call.
And the Bills, like you said, the Bills have done this at times, like that back away from the front side of the run, that back away concept. Like they'll do that to draw defenders and then have Josh Allen keep it. And this is Josh Allen bread and butter territory. It's 3rd and 1. You're running that dart concept again, like, except, okay, like the primary ball carrier would be Josh Allen. But because of that, they're able to use that, idea and that notion and that threat again against the defense. Clark is the edge player there, number 33, and you have him highlighted there. He's unblocked. So he comes down the line and he reads that mesh action, but again, he has to honor Josh Allen. So he comes down, Allen reads it, hands it off to Ty Johnson. And then, like you said, that man-to-man piece, Ron Curse is responsible for Johnson. You have him highlighted there, directly that one-on-one piece. He starts flowing with it, and then he stops because he's seeing that flash of color from Dawkins. So he's thinking, this is coming back this way. Right. Look at all the flow of the defenders like you're highlighting. They're reading that pull, thinking it's coming back front side with Josh Allen, but Allen just reads it, hands it off to Ty Johnson, and there's so much space on the outside. Again, great design and call on 3rd and 1 and using the threat of Josh Allen's legs against the defense and using it to kind of play games with them.
All right, and so we're going to fast forward to the second quarter, 12:57 on the clock, 1st and 10 situation. This is James Cook's touchdown, and this is our Real Estate Rewind presented by Jonathan Miller of Metro Roberts Realty. This is that corner route from James Cook. Man, so many layers to this play, so much to like, which is why we're going to watch it several times, and we called it our Real Estate Rewind. So first things first, let's look at the coverage. Again, man coverage, 1st and 10 situation, which means that if it's man coverage on this play, generally the dime backer Bell would have Cook here as the number 3. But that little motion, that little shift by Cook gets the matchup that Josh and Joe Brady want. You get James Cook on Clark, the linebacker here, the only linebacker really on the field. So you're having essentially a scissors concept with a post right here from Gabe Davis. And then, he's getting vertical, Cook is, and then running that corner route. They've run it several times this year. They've tried running it last year with Ken Dorsey, but Dorsey called it a little different. He called it when the ball was on the right hash more times than not. Didn't give Cook all that much room to work with. But on this play with the ball on the left hash, he has plenty of room to work with. Pressure from Parsons on the inside move, but it played right into Josh Allen's hands. It got him out of the pocket in a better view of the matchup that he really wanted in Cook right here on the backside of this play. And the catch was just beautiful. I mean, receiver-like, right, Anthony? Just beautiful, soft hands in the end zone for the touchdown.
Soft hands, confident hands, poised. Like, he makes a hands catch away from his body at about, like, knee height. Like, that's not an easy catch for anybody, let alone a running back. So that's a tremendously, silky play from James Cook with his hands. Super annoyed that he dropped that one later in the game. But
that was awesome design too, huh?
It was so good. Yeah, that little, I think it's like somebody had posted something about Joe Brady's like playbook, and it's identified as like the slither concept. Yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. But also similar to how he scored that touchdown against the Jets, like that whole idea of just kind of running him back across the traffic. And letting him get through the garbage, which is beautiful. I love the little nugget you have here, like running this from the far hash to give Cook the space to operate. And you just see the disadvantage that Clark is in as soon as the shift happens. He tries to undercut. He has to go underneath Shakir right here, right there. Yeah. He's dead. Like, he's dead in the water. Like, he lost this rep. Cook is coming at full speed with momentum out of the backfield. Clark is trying to catch him. He doesn't get to reroute him. He doesn't get hands on him because he has to play underneath, because he's in man coverage, and he has to play underneath Shakir's route. And once that happens, Cook just flies by him. But because it's run from the left hash, Clark doesn't have the added benefit of being like, okay, this is closer to the boundary. Maybe I can make up some ground. There is a ton of real estate, pun intended, for James Cook to work with out there. And I love the nugget there. Like Allen gets outside, he's able to see it better, puts it out there, and Cook makes an absolutely tremendous catch. And it's one that I'm sure fans have rewound a ton, and we did as well. And it's why it's our real estate rewind play of the game, sponsored, of course, by Jonathan Miller of Metro Roberts Realty. Jonathan uses cutting-edge technology to help you sell your home faster. He uses professional photographs, 3D virtual tours, drone photos, and videos, and all of those things are included with each listing at no extra charge. He loves working with buyers and sellers in all price ranges. He donates a portion of his commission from each sale to rescue an animal. You can find his phone number and contact information in our episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you are listening to this show on. And Eric, this is another one too, like knowing Dallas likes to use man coverage and using this concept in this low red zone to create that advantage out to the field side with the space. Just well done from Joe Brady.
Yeah, awesome stuff. That's why it was our real estate rewind. We watched it about 25 different times on that play. So awesome stuff, though. I love some of the the designs that Brady has come up with, and the when to call them. It's not just the play that's drawn up. It's when they call it. Red zone, fringe of the red zone, and being able to get it down the field to the wide side of the field to a matchup advantage. Just so many layers to that play. Why it was a great play. So another thing that Brady did was throw an array of personnel, a lot of heavy personnel. We talked about it: 12 personnel, 21 personnel, 22 personnel with an extra offensive lineman. We're going to go over a few of those plays, but this little package was something different too.
Some pony.
Some pony. So it's 2 running backs, 1 tight end, but instead of having Gilliam, the fullback, in, they have Ty Johnson in on this play, and they're running dart, and they're running it from under center, which is why I wanted to talk about it, because, they're running it primarily from shotgun this year, but this time they run it from under center, and they're inserting Ty Johnson, and then you get the long pull from Spencer Brown and the patience by Cook to press the line of scrimmage, let those blocks develop, let that displacement happen, and then boom, head outside for that 9-yard gain. And Anthony, I want you to cover some of the hand usage and Cromer technique from Knox on this play on the backside, but also Dawkins on the front side of this play, and how he's using his hands to gain leverage and gain the advantage against these defenders.
We really need to start creating some Cover One Cromer merch where it just says hands, hands, hands. Like we really, I don't know how we haven't done it. It's a huge missed opportunity. We'll start front side with Deion Dawkins. Again, hands. Like we talk about it all the time. Cromer is a huge proponent of hand technique, establishing that first touch. Maybe a little penalty here from Deion Dawkins with the hands to the face, but you see the shot.
It's quick though. It's quick. Like they're not going to call if it's like, hey, accidentally miss. And then now if it's like a pass pro where his hands consistently in the chin strap, then I could see it. But yeah, this one was quick. Again, we're doing slow motion.
It's more of like, oops, I accidentally hit you in the face rather than like my hands are in your chin and I'm wrenching you back in pass pro. But the idea is still the same. Like you see Dawkins step out and you see him already kind of starting to throw that left hand, and then boom, that quick jab right to establish that first touch. It literally, we talk about with hands like shock and pop, but that pop to Parsons' face, it looked like it shocked him. Like he's reeling, he's thrown out, falls forward. It just takes him right out of everything. And then Dawkins just escorts him a little bit to the outside. So you get that hand technique, you get the pop and the strength in the hands. And then like you mentioned, Deion Dawkins, Dawson Knox on that backside, steps inside, like cuts off that interior presence for anything coming off the edge.
That's huge. I don't think people understand how important that backside cutoff is, or that backside hinge on these, gap type plays where the tackle's pulling. Because if this guy's fast enough, he can get inside as Brown is pulling and just totally, blow this play up, especially because of the counter element here. But Knox chops down that inside hand. It was just remarkable stuff. And it's good to have him back for these type of plays, whether it's the run or the pass. Like his blocking it has been missed.
Yeah, and you can see that right arm from Knox. It's very pronounced, like even from this back angle, like he literally chops down as he steps inside. And it doesn't have to be, this is actually like decently clean though from, but it doesn't have to be the cleanest or the prettiest. You're just trying to get that inside positioning to prevent that guy from going down the line. And
that's just not some guy. Like,
that's what I was going to say.
Lawrence.
That's what makes it even more impressive. Like, it's against DeMarcus Lawrence, who on the very first play of the game, he came screaming down the line to make a stop on Dart. It was pretty much like the only stop that Dallas had against it. So it's not like Knox is taking away the inside from, you know, a linebacker or a backup guy or like a big slot or a big nickel. Like, it's against DeMarcus Lawrence, and you even see that chop a little bit. Watch how Lawrence loses his footing. He gets a bit off kilter, boom, right there. And once he starts to lean forward, it's over. Knox seals that inside. And we get, you know, the run there from Cook, who gets tripped up a little bit as he gets to the outside. But again, you're seeing that technique like you talked about and you set me up for, that hand technique, hand placement, hand usage, power, shock, pop, nice pieces displayed there from, again, not just your offensive lineman, but from your tight end grouping as well, which again is something, you know, going back to Cromer's time with the Rams, you'd see receivers using excellent hand usage. Like it's a calling card for him.
Yeah, and you're going to see the blocking on this play and finish from the offensive line, yes, but also, once again, from your tight ends, from your running back. This is a 21 pony look. It's a duo run, and this is our easy loan auto sales, making it look easy play of the game. And the offensive line and the skill positions, tight ends and running backs, all made it look easy when it came to run blocking in this game. So let's start on the front side, all right? Let's start on the front side of this play, combination block, Torrance and Brown, how they're working first level, and then going and getting that undersized dime backer, doing a good job. Brown here staying with the block and just taking this guy where he wants to go and then just throwing him out of the club. Just get out of there, dig him out of there so that Cook can cut back inside. Again, Parsons at the point of attack right here. Dawson Knox one-on-one. Watch him wash Parsons down. Like, too easy, man. Like, that is phenomenal blocking and positional leverage, driving him down. You're getting the cutback by Cook. Nice positional leverage by Ty Johnson on Curse, the safety there. And so then, you know, you get downhill look from Cook. He bounces outside and then he gets vertical. Now a backside. This is the angry run segment of this play. So Dawkins latches on to the only linebacker really on this play. And he doesn't just let that guy run free. He takes him for a ride down the field. And then to add insult to injury, boom, drops him down to the turf, lands on top of him as James Cook gets tackled right around the 1 yard line. Fantastic finish. And this is the mentality and style of play that we really haven't seen from the Bills offensive line altogether since they've had Josh Allen. So to have this changeup, this curveball is a great compliment to their passing game.
This downhill aspect of the run game is just, this is where, you know, when you're getting the ball run on you in general, that's where your soul kind of gets taken as a defense, but especially this one where vertical displacement is created and you're just getting bullied on the ball. But this is also too where Dallas's defensive makeup works against them because they chose to put Clark, number 33, on the edge. Right. The only off-ball linebacker in the box is Bell, number 14, again, which I cannot consistently say enough. Bell is listed at 205 pounds.
So he's like 195.
Correct. Yeah, I was going to say, which means he's like 5 pounds. So because guys are always overlisted with their height and their weight. So he is one of your defenders in the box. And then also Jaron Curse, bigger bodied safety, hybrid dude. He is also in your box. So you're light in terms of personnel from a weight perspective in the box. And you're at a disadvantage from the get-go. We showed it on the last play. I cannot continue to talk enough about Ty Johnson, the blocker. Like, who would have thought Ty Johnson blocking back, runner, kick returner, the versatility that he shows. Leverage, and yes, leverage. And it's not like some amazing, oh man, he blew his guy off the ball, because it really doesn't need to be. Just get in between your man and the ball carrier. He gets extension, he gets leverage, and the alley and the runway that's provided for James Cook, we talk about it all the time on the show. When you're going through the hole, you want to see the backside of your blockers, and that's what he gets. You've got the backside of Johnson, you've got the backside of Knox inside as he washed down Parsons. There is that runway and that piece there, and then we see a little bit of that slalom skier nature to James Cook's style. And then even on the backside, like you highlighted again, Mozzie Smith, he's getting washed down inside, and you see McGovern is on 96, but then Mitch Morse picks him up. He sees him starting to come inside. So as Mitch Morse is occupying Mozzie Smith, 58, he starts to shift over. McGovern gets that communication. Look at just the mass of humanity and the car pileup on the inside there that the Bills offensive line executes. Like, it's just physicality, it's nastiness, capped off by Deion Dawkins just driving Clark into the ground. And then he also falls down on Curse as well, like just adding insult to injury. This one was
he kept
beautiful.
his hands inside. He didn't do the Superman like he's been doing for like the year, right? His
that added bit of disrespect that he normally puts on top of it. Just really nice from start to finish, like beautiful in the physicality. And that's why it was our Easy Loan Auto Sales, making it look easy play of the game. Sponsored, of course, by Easy Loan Auto Sales, who, regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help you get behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. They can get you driving today. Their information can be found in our episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you are listening to this show on.
All right. Awesome stuff. Thanks Beautiful. To Easy Loans for that sponsored segment. So we got to move along. We got to get some of this run game stuff going. This is 2nd and 6 situation here, third quarter, 6:05 on the clock. Crack toss to Johnson. Again, I like the variations of the personnel, 22 personnel, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, but instead of a second tight end, you have big David Edwards here on the crack toss. They get it out to Johnson. This is a 9-yard gain. And once again, the personnel played a part in this game, but also the execution. Watch the pull by Brown. And as the linebacker's trying to, close down that alley that's developing, Brown peels off, picks it up, and look at those blocks, look at the leverage. And that allows Johnson to get up inside that alley for a 9-yard gain.
Yeah, getting Spencer Brown out in space, we talk about it all the time. Like the mix that the Bills have on the offensive line in terms of physicality, but also athleticism, and any chance you can get to put Spencer Brown and Mitch Morse out into space, you want to do that. We saw Morse in the first clip here on the full block, and this time we see Brown out in space here. But like you said, that's great awareness to have your head on a swivel, peel back inside, get a piece of your man. Edwards is out in front on a DB. You also get a good job from Quentin Morris at the tight end position. Him being that crack player, just you don't have to do much. Like, just get a piece of your man, drive him inside, and that's what he does. He gets a piece of Lawrence, takes him inside, and once that crack element happens, it's so tough to do anything. And then this is art right here, like hat on a hat. Edwards is on Bland. Gilliam is on Curse. Brown has peeled back and gotten his man. Like, this is what you want to see if you're Ty Johnson. Just bodies out in space and everybody accounted for. J-Ron Curse is trying to spin off Gilliam, and Gilliam's downfield with him. But like to your point, another added element, like 22 personnel, or that jumbo piece, I should say. And then you've got Morris and you've got Gilliam, like all these personnel groupings and different looks and elements and crack toss mixed in with the other concepts. It was a lot for Dallas to handle.
Yeah, here's a 12 personnel look. You see the 2 tight ends right here on the right side. Ty Johnson gets this dart call. Spencer Brown's pulling once again, and he reads it perfectly. So watch at the point of attack. Dawkins throws Lawrence out of the club there, but also the read by Spencer Brown, because normally we've seen this play kind of get up inside here on the linebacker, and you see the linebacker, he commits to that gap. And so Brown says, you know what, if you're inside that far, I could really just bypass you. If you're kind of just holding at the line of scrimmage and not shooting upfield, I'm just going to go outside and kind of wrap rather than insert. He does that, and Johnson reads it perfectly. As I said, Dawkins throws Lawrence, and then Brown is able to pick up that linebacker, and they get 11 yards on this dart call with Brown pulling.
Yeah, again, a good adjustment on the fly, and we'll see this play transpire at certain times like this. Like, instead of that insert, sometimes you'll see Brown or Dawkins kind of wrap and pull around that outside, and it's a good adjustment from Brown on the fly here. It's a good job from Ty Johnson reading and following his man, and also too the little element of Josh Allen, but also Dalton Kincaid. Like what Kincaid does on the snap, like look at the impact that it has. Yep, on Donovan Wilson, number 6, Marcus Bell, number 14, who is at the second level behind Torrance. Parsons, who you just put in the triangle there, he's reading Josh Allen. He gets held. So not only do you have the on the fly adjustment, but you're also influencing 3 defenders on the backside and taking them a little bit out of the play / setting them up for failure. Bell, because he was at that second level and he moved with the Kincaid action, number 14, it allows Mitch Morse to have better leverage. Morse climbs to the second level and is literally just waiting for Bell. Like he's waiting for Bell to come back towards play side. Once he does, he gets his hands on him. You highlighted Osiris Torrance, who steps inside and has a seal. So this is another example of good design, good execution, and these little wrinkles that help play to the advantage of the Bills. Because all it takes is just a split second for the defenders to move the wrong way. With Wilson,
couple steps, man. That's all it took on the 14 and 33. Couple steps into the line of scrimmage, couple steps for Bell to his left. That gives the leverage that you need to get on the perimeter on this play.
And so much about offensive football, like run game, passing game, so much of it is about it's geometry, it's angles, it's spacing, and what you can do to create advantageous avenues for yourself with those angles and with those spacing. I think that has been one of Joe Brady. And Joe Brady's involvement of the running backs as primary options in the pass game has been tremendous. I think my favorite thing might be the way he's created advantageous avenues with like the angles and spacing in the run game and the pass.
Yeah, when you're talking about, because people don't realize that coverage, the coverage that you're in plays a major part in run fits. And it reminds me, the Cowboys playing this much man coverage. It reminds me of the Patriots games a couple years ago when Dable was using McKenzie on some of these counter bash plays, getting him the ball on the perimeter and using the man coverage element that the Patriots were playing to accent and maximize the run game and moving guys. And that's what you saw from Joe Brady in this game. And here's another one of those plays. So the Cowboys have a 5-man surface. They have Parsons on the edge right here, and they don't block him. They run that pull with Brown, and they don't block him. And again, you get that mesh between Josh and James Cook, and Parsons has no freaking idea what to do. Do I need to charge up field for the running back? Do I need to go get Josh Allen on this play? What am I supposed to do with the puller coming at me? Like, he was in no man's land on this play. And so what does Brown do? He just reads it. He said, you know what? I'll just punch you inside, and we're going to get on the perimeter for a 17-yard gain. It's just too easy. This is one of the best, if not the best defender in the entire NFL neutralized in this game.
And if I don't know how much Cowboys tape or Cowboys games that, you know, our viewers watch, Micah Parsons isn't like a slack run defender. Like, he's not like all pure pass rush and then sucks against the run or doesn't try. Like, but to your point, they neutralized him really in the pass rush because they ran the ball so much.
Bingo.
But neutralizing him in the run as well, just with the different looks from Josh Allen, the mesh actions, all these pieces, these concepts. And again, this is a really good adjustment and read from Brown. Like, Parsons steps inside and you don't need to waste your time with him if you're Spencer Brown. But this is also the nice piece of Spencer Brown, like with that athleticism starting to show more, him pulling and just having the athleticism to gear down, give a quick punch to help, you know, keep Parsons inside and then get back up to full speed and get out to the second level and out in space to lead Cook. It's just another good example of using players to their skill set.
And Anthony, real quick, because I think we gloss over it every single week and don't really hammer it home how incredibly lucky the Bills are to have 2 tackles with that type of athleticism
and a center
impact
like that too,
and center too, to pull. Like, they don't pull their guards.
No,
the average team pulls their guards. They don't like to pull their guards. They're pulling tackles. Probably at the highest rate in the league. I'm going to go back and look at the numbers, but I assume that I know that these power plays, again, True Media categorizes these tackle pulls in the power category, again, which includes guards pulling gap type runs. They're number 1. They pull on power plays at the highest rate in the league. Now, again, maybe it's not as high as like their guards against other teams, but I don't think we hammer it home enough how important, how lucky the Bills are to have tackles with that ability. Because again, it screws up reads for linebackers and second level defenders, because they're typically reading the triangle inside, the center and guards when it comes to the run game. It's hard to key in on tackles and guards and their looks and their footwork when they want to, you know, pull a tackle and whatnot, and what that looks like. It's not normal. It's not traditional. And the Bills are one of the best at doing it. And you're going to see it again here. This is a 24-yard gain on 1st and 5 here. Dawkins pulling good vertical displacement by Torrance and Brown. And once again, look at the displacement that they create and how they're able to get to that backside backer, which is Bell, number 14. Look at the displacement that they get, and they bring and really escort the defensive tackle to that second level defender in Bell. And a nice play from Dawkins on the pull as he comes down the line of scrimmage and kicks out Clark, and you see a nice alley. It's blocked up perfectly. Cook makes that last defender miss, and the Bills go on to really win this game. They put the Cowboys out of their misery in this game by spamming these plays left and right. And this was no different. It was just fitting that Cook finally broke through on this dart play for an explosive run for this touchdown.
Yeah, it was a nice little cherry on top. And just, again, what they're able to do with the numbers in the box. So if you're looking at it from a box count perspective for Dallas, you've got the 5 on the line of scrimmage, and then you've got Bell, number 14. So, as you number them there, you've got 5 on the line, 1 at the second level. So that's 6 in the box for Dallas. And the Bills, 5 offensive linemen plus Dawson Knox. So 6 on 6. Again, the mesh action in the backfield holds that edge off of the left side, Mr. DeMarcus Lawrence, number 90. Yeah. So he's out. So now it is 6 on 5. So advantage for the Bills. And you just change the math a little bit just from that little action in the backfield. And then, like you said, a really great job climbing to the second level from Brown and Torrance. They do so well on these double teams, the displacement they create against Odigizua, and then their chemistry in terms of who's going to pull off and when. Brown sees it. His eyes, both of them, Torrance and Brown.
The communication that's happening. First of all, the technique, the hip to hip, the knee to knee, and the combination. There's no leakage from Odigizua there, 97. And then, like you said, Torrance looking, and again, they're communicating to each other. Hey, I'm not gonna, like, Torrance is letting Brown know, hey, it's gonna have to be you that climbs. And then they wait for that moment. He turns that shoulder, and boom, it's just walled off perfectly.
It's beautifully it's beautifully done. It's another alley created. And then even what Dawson Knox does, the technique for it, the name for it is
influence.
Yes.
And then arc.
Arc. Thank you. It's been driving me nuts this entire time. Just that little hesitation to influence on Clark, and then he arcs past him to get to the second level. But look what it does to Clark. It stops him from coming screaming down that line, trying to close or squeeze the hole that Dawkins is trying to create, or it reduces the opportunity for him to maybe come inside and try and wrong arm this and spill it. Like, it just reduces what he's able to do by delaying him, gives extra time for Dawkins. And then we see Dawkins pull, hits him, creates that alley. It's all these little pieces, and you're changing the math, you're changing the angles, you're changing the spacing, you're taking advantage of the personnel that Dallas is trying to use. This is why the Bills kept going with this concept over and over, because Dallas wasn't adjusting. They had the advantage. And it was like, Eric, it was like clockwork. They knew, like, oh, let's just do a mesh action and we can take away the backside defender and we can change the numbers. We can create displacement with our guys up front. We're getting to Bell. Let's influence this edge player here. Just, it was consistent. And that's why Joe Brady said, if it's not broken, don't fix it. There was nothing broken. And as a defensive person, part of me really wants to put the onus on Dallas for this, as much as I love what the Bills did, because I'm like, just why? And we've seen teams adjust well to the Bills' dark concept. The Jets have done it multiple times, including in that second matchup with what they were doing front side with CJ Mosley and how they were squeezing gaps. Just the lack of adjustment from Dallas pisses me off. But if you're the Bills, dude, we're working this thing. Let's keep running it until they show that they can stop it. Dallas never did. And Joe Brady just kept easy button, and didn't have to do anything else.
And that's why, again, it comes to the preparation during the week and understanding the Cowboys' tendencies of playing man coverage and how they were so obviously preparing for the passing game and Josh Allen. So they're probably repping all that during the week and having all these different looks, and in the end, man coverage looks, because that's their bread and butter. And then the Bills saying, you know what? We're going to use that against you, but from a run perspective element, not a passing game element. And so they were able to find those looks and those little shifts, those little details that gave them the numbers advantage, that gave them the leverage on a defender who could blow up a play. and just the little edge elements here, as we highlighted in this entire breakdown, it was so cool to see. It was so cool to see. It was awesome. Even more like awesome because it wasn't the initial plan.
Yeah.
It was this staff collaborating.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we've seen on film from this offensive staff under Brady. We've seen so much more collaboration. And we say that because you can see the changes. We've outlined them in this, on this podcast over the last few weeks here.
Mhm.
You could see those little changes, those little elements that they tweaked, like the Gabe Davis and the Cook swing route stuff. Like all those things are coming together. They're working as a team from a coaching staff perspective to maximize and to put their players in those successful positions like we saw in this game. And that's what happens when everything is clicking and the coaches are working well together with their game plan and in-game adjustments, and the execution is happening on the field. And really, the Bills players with their backs against the wall saying, hey, we need to get things done and get taken care of so that we can make the playoffs. This is the type of game plans on both sides of the ball and work and execution that the Bills needed throughout the entire year, but now they're hitting their stride.
Yeah.
And they have to, because again, it's do or die every single week.
And you want to get hot in December, and you want to plan it out a little better and not have your backs completely against the wall with making the playoffs, but get hot in December and get to the playoffs and then just see what happens. And in a wide open AFC, like a year where every single team has their warts and has their questions, and the usual big dogs are faltering a little bit or potentially non-existent with Cincinnati, even though Jake Browning has been crushing it. Shout out to him. It's nice to see the Bills kind of potentially peaking a little bit. And we're talking about the adjustments and the game plan piece. I love, not that the defense didn't have adjustments, but I love the juxtaposition you had in this game where what McDermott planned for and architected is what came to pass. It came to fruition, and the Bills were able to just hammer that and continue it throughout the game. And then offensively, the Bills offense just made an adjustment and kind of veered off course into a better plan of action. And it was just, those are two tremendous elements of football right there. Sometimes your game plan, you go into a game and everything you prepped for and anticipated comes to fruition, and that's what happens, and you're good to go. Sometimes, for better or for worse, your game plan needs to be tweaked. Stuff isn't working. You have to kind of go back to the chalkboard and redesign some things. Or in the case of the Bills offense in this game, some little pieces are working so tremendously well, you decide to pivot to those elements and lean on them and spam that aspect. And it was just beautiful, like in the grand scheme, to see what happened offensively and defensively in this game. Again, I know coming out of this game, a lot of Bills fans are probably like, well, Dallas is frauds and Dallas is fake. That's a good football team, man. Like, they are a good group. I know they lost to the Niners earlier in the year and got waxed. Niners are also a really great team, but Dallas is good. And also, everybody needs to put their cowboy hats on this week and hope that they beat the Miami Dolphins. But that's a good football team that came into Buffalo, and the Bills housed them from the first quarter through the fourth quarter. Playing your backups with like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter against that Cowboys team is a tremendous feather in the cap for this Bills team, and another, continued strong performance coming on the heels of that game against Kansas City. And Eric, like you said, it's something we're going to need to see continuously going forward. Got to beat the Chargers this week. Take care of the Pats at home. Maybe Miami loses one of their next two games and sets up an AFC East showdown in Week 18. For the division title against the Bills in Miami. We'll see what happens. But regardless of what happens, we will have you covered every single week, live every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, here in the Cover One Film Room. For better or for worse, the losses, the wins. This is the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind the whats that happen on the football field, whether it's Bills stuff, but also just football knowledge in general. We got you here in this show. So bang it here every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. For those of you who rode with us live in this episode, we greatly appreciate your presence. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday. As we start to wind down here, please, and thank you, drop a like on this video. If you have not already, those are the lifebloods of these live streams. Please drop a like on this video. If you are watching later or listening later, that's cool too. Thank you for your post-live view. Please drop a like on this video as well. If you're listening on one of our podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool too. Please rate and review and subscribe to the Cover One Film Room. And then whether you're listening on the podcasting apps or platforms or here on YouTube, subscribe to the Cover One channel as a whole. We have you covered every single day of the week with Bills content, varying levels of analysis and detail, entertainment pieces, whatever you're looking for. We have you covered here at Cover One. As we mentioned earlier, sign up for that one pass piece, become an insider, get access to the Slack channel and special little pieces that we create and post there, the access to all our content creators on the brand and anything and everything in the tight-knit family aspect community that Eric and the team have created here and cultivated over the past couple of years. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about how awesome this show is and how awesome the brand is. We appreciate you folks. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Week. Yeah, awesome time. Have a safe, happy holiday over the weekend. Christmas Eve on Sunday, Christmas on Monday. The next time we see you will be post-holiday. We hope you and yours have a great holiday. If you have the opportunity, try and, do some charitable things to those in need and to those who might not be having a great holiday. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Go take a bathroom break. Get some food and a drink. Bang it back here at 9 o'clock for Greg and Aaron. They have a tremendous guest breaking down some Chargers stuff. Feel free to check out the Skies coverage in my episode I did last night with Alex Brasky, getting a Buffalo Bills pulse check and diving into some Bills and Chargers pieces. Regardless of all that, enjoy your Wednesday. Enjoy your holiday. We will see you next week. Godspeed. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I'm Anthony Prohaska. That's Eric Turner. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.